My name is Joshua, and I'm the Tribune. Today I want to talk to builders who are very frustrated about working with God because they feel like it's not working. Now, I have to say right out the gate that every time you ask God how long something's going to take, or how long until He does this, or how long this, and how long that, or when, what you're saying is that you don't understand His character and how He works. He does not work in the current. He works for the future. So while we're asking when and how long and things like that, that is making us focus on our current surroundings. But God's not focused on that. God is actually focused on a big situation and a big moment that's coming for you. In fact, He will actually take moments in time, seasons to prepare you in segments for something so giant coming down the road that you have no idea even exists. All we have to do is be obedient in this situation. Now, the reason why this is because He is omniscient. He thinks way ahead. He's way ahead of all of us. So when we work with God, we have to understand we are not working for a human. We are not working for somebody who is just looking at what's happening right now or as far as they can see in the future and trying to predict and plan. That's not what we're doing. We are working with a God who knows absolute what's going to happen in the future. And not only that, He controls all the surroundings of what's going to lead up to that moment and the moment itself. He controls everything. So what happens is when builders with God find themselves with anxiety, following His instructions, it's mainly not because they're being disobedient or they're not preparing the right thing. This is something that it takes a long time to learn if you don't know this principle. Now, when God asks you to do something and to prepare with Him, He is going to use something that looks normal to everybody else. A lot of His instructions, He uses the world's systems to do things. So He's not going to say, okay, well, come up to heaven and let's plan this thing. It's just leave your body, come out to heaven, and then you'll come back in a few months. That's not what He does. He does all His planning here. He's not going to give you some heavenly pencil to do an illustration, and you just have to look at it, and suddenly all the art just beams onto the page. That's what He doesn't do. But that's what we are saying He's doing when we start asking Him things like how long, when is this, when is that. We're forgetting that He's actually using worldly things to get His mission accomplished that's heavenly. So when He asks you to do something, it's going to look very normal and it's going to look like something in the world system. I'm not saying that what His blueprints are preparing or what His assignment is for you is normal. What I'm saying is the means to prepare it are going to look normal to a lot of people. You'll be able to look around and say, oh my goodness, there's a lot of people that might be doing this thing, using this vehicle to do their life's purpose. But that doesn't mean that you are the same as them. So what happens is if He gives you something and gives you a step, the biggest problem you'll face is not necessarily obedience in doing the step, because I'm talking to builders right now. You've already gone through the obedience stage. The biggest problem you'll have is assuming that that step is for the current situation and that step is supposed to do something just like you see it doing already around you. You're thinking that step's going to just do something that day or do something that week. That's not true. What God's thinking is He uses regular looking steps with divine wisdom for the future to prepare so that you should be looking towards the future. You shouldn't be looking towards what's going to happen with the thing, the results right now. That's not what you do with God. What you do is you take what you're doing, you focus on it, do it the best you possibly can, working with Him, getting wisdom, asking Him and what is His instructions for this thing. Then from there, you see how He wants to do it moving on from there. You have to see what happens with that thing. It doesn't mean that, oh, well, it's something's going to happen with it, and then that's no, maybe nothing's going to look like it happens at first. Maybe absolutely nothing. It will look like you wasted your time. But that doesn't mean you wasted your time. What it means is he's at the next step of preparation. When you come through these steps, you're going to be able to look back and see a body of work with him that you can just look at, and by looking at it, you won't even be able to imagine what he's now preparing for. That's what the journey's like. You start thinking you know what he's doing. From the start, that's great. That must mean this first step means we're going to be doing this. No. Maybe it's part of it. But we have to remember that God is not scrambling around trying to figure things out. When we work with God, one of the booby traps he sets for imposters is he will plan something far in advance and ask you to do many steps in between. Now, if you don't have a relationship with God, you will not be able to even do the next step for many reasons. One, the obvious reason is discouragement. You won't be able to move on because you think that nothing's working. Now, the second reason, which is less obvious, that is a booby trap, is some of his steps look so good that you actually feel like you can't move on because you don't want to, because you've been attached to this thing. You feel so attached to this step that you can't imagine how much better it can be from here. But this is what relationship with God, with his generals, with his builders, looks like. He will keep blowing your mind at every next step. By the time you get to his advanced steps, you won't even care what the next step is, because he's already blown your mind even in preparation. Now, this is very important. God will blow your mind in preparation, not the final thing. That will blow your mind. I can't even imagine how that would blow your mind. But just the preparation alone will actually make you feel like you are so exuberant with excitement. You are just so filled to the brim that you don't know what could be better. Now, this is another reason why it's very important to not ask God how long and when and all these kind of things, because he's not looking at it as you're looking at it. You are doing the right thing by looking at your step, the step that you're on right now, and focusing on it. But though you're excited about that step and whatever he's talking to you about, you forget he has a grand strategy. His strategy is to get you to a moment in the future that you will have everything you need. Everything you need to be the ultimate power in that situation. Have the ultimate wisdom. By the time that moment comes, you won't even have to really think that hard. And each step actually does prove that. Because before the next step comes, he's already prepared you in advance for that step. That's the thing that's so powerful. Is that even with the preparation of God, he prepares his steps in advance. If he has a giant step for you that's coming, he will ask you to do many things in advance before that step even comes. So he actually prepares for his steps, and his steps prepare you for his grand purpose that he has for you. This is important to understand because throughout the journey, it's very easy to get confused. It's very easy to get confused on what is the purpose. You can actually think that a step is your grand purpose because he's so lofty. Can you imagine going on a road trip and you take your kids with you? You are moving on this road trip and you know the grand destination is it's going to blow their mind. Okay? On the way, during this 3-hour road trip, okay, you stop midway at a restaurant that has some of their favorite food. A restaurant. Now, the place you're going to, you know, has everything they can imagine and more. All the food the best food, many types of food that they love, and more entertainment. Now, can you imagine stopping at the restaurant midway and the kid refuses to leave? I don't want to leave. And they're holding on to the booth. They're holding on to the restaurant, the chair, and they're screaming. This is what we do with God. He is so wonderful that on the journey he will feed you, and it will be delicious. But don't get so caught up on the food to get you to the next step that you think that's now your purpose. And you think that's what that's it for God. That's what he's doing. We're just going to do this and that's it. No. That's the wrong mentality. So when we don't ask God how long, we're not focused on when and how long, all these kind of questions, then that means we're focused on just being obedient, following the instruction, knowing that he is going to take this instruction and work it for his next step. This brings me to another point. It's very scary to pray for things that we want. I actually don't pray for too many things I want. You know why? It's a horrifying thought. Many people, you see Christians praying for everything. Hey, please give me this, give me that. Please, God, please, I want this, I want that. Please give me a car. Please. Too small. Way too small. I don't like asking God for too many things because I know what he has for me is way more than I can even ask for. So when I'm facing a step that even looks nice, I actually want to stay here, I don't even ask to stay here. Because I know he is going to have something so amazing that if he would answer that prayer for me to settle for something less, then now I'm really going to be depressed. That I'm going to really be angry. I mean, it's going to be horrible for me. And he won't do that. And I'm talking about great things. I'm even talking about asking for lofty things for even us to ask for. I'm not talking about cars and I need a washing machine. I need no. I need some clothes. No, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about things that the highest thought you can have, that's the absolute lowest thought for him. This is why it's important to remember in the journey, he will already, from the beginning of your preparation with him, he will already be talking about things that are way higher than you, way higher than your highest thought. So it's understandable that you would get stuck even on the first step and just really want that. That's the hardest thing with preparing with God. Each preparation step is so wonderful that you just want that thing to start right away. And you want to just start benefiting from it, and you just want to get in there and then God just bless it, and he just moves it forward and just brings you into prominence. No. Each time God moves you from step to step, I want you to look back at the last step. The last step of preparation for generals. Okay? I'm not talking about somebody who's not doing preparation with him. I'm talking about doing things that God is asking you to do and prepare for that doesn't make sense. They're so wonderful and powerful that you can't even imagine how he would complete the first one. I want you to look back and see, wow, as wonderful as that is, this one's more wonderful. That's what I started realizing. The next one was always more wonderful, so now I just have to trust God. Because I don't know when he's planning to stop, and whenever he does stop and says, now this is time to move forward on this, and I'm going to actually bring this into prominence. It's going to blow not only my mind, but the world's mind. Everybody's mind will be blown. And that's what we want. So, this brings me to my next point. When you look back on your last one, you need to start comparing the prototypes that he has put in place of preparation so that it'll help you not ask how long and when. You need to look back and see what he did and how he did not answer your how long and when, and he just refused to answer. He totally ignored those questions. You need to look back at that, take that as a prototype, and use that as encouragement for your current step that you're on, that you're following instructions blindly. And practice not asking those kind of questions. Now, the questions are not the root of the problem. The questions are the symptom. The root of the problem of asking all these kind of questions that God doesn't want to answer is that we're focused on the wrong thing. Our heart is not where his heart is. Our mind is not where his mind is. So throughout the journey, we are trying to stay connected with his heart on the matter. Now, a lot of the times he will correct this. He will correct it on his own. And the thing is, he wants us to stay on that same path with him. So if you ask God, well, how long, and you're starting to get very, very anxious and frustrated, he will speak to you. He will remind you of how he is. Now, your job is to take that, put whatever you're trying to get just happening now, put that on the altar, and you won't regret it because he's so wonderful. Now, the reason why he doesn't answer these questions of how long and he doesn't go on our timetables is because it's for our own benefit. It's not because he's trying to do something just for himself and he's just like, oh no, I don't want to answer them because, I don't want to give them that. No, that's not how he is at all. It's for us. Now, this is what I don't want everybody to get to. Where you guys are asking, me included, asking, and he says, wow, they won't let this go. Just give it, we need to just have this, they just need to get this thing so that they can realize that this wasn't it. This was a step. Now, the last point I need to mention is that he will use the world's systems for his steps. So it's important to really pay attention to how the world is using whatever system he's choosing to use with you. Whatever's normal for Satan's children to believe a result should be in doing this for this situation, for this vehicle or this conduit, whatever is normal to Satan's children should not be normal to us. That is a sure sign that it is God. When he is not letting something that works for Satan's children work in the same way. Because he is using that thing for a higher level purpose. And that's what we need to start connecting to. We need to start connecting to what is he actually using. What is he using and what is he using it for? For our purpose. For the mission that he's been talking to us about. The clue to finding out the answer to this question is remembering his character. Remembering that he's looking towards the future. He is not planning to fix current situations right now. He is building a strategy with you that will be a greater fix for a bigger problem down the road. This is why God's generals are so rare. Because people don't want to sacrifice this kind of process. They don't want to do it because they're looking and comparing themselves with people who are doing lower level preparation. This is why I'm talking to you, so that you can understand the process and that we can have more generals, because there's commissions he has in his hand. There are assignments that he is willing to hand out and looking for people to give that will astound you. This is why this entire principle, this entire discussion, is why he chooses people that don't necessarily have the qualifications for what he's choosing them for. Because he knows that if you just follow his exact instructions, he has all the qualifications. He has everything you need. He has all the wisdom. He has all the knowledge. And if he needs you to know something, he will tell you how to get the information. And this is why people don't need degrees with God. I'm not talking about doctors. I'm not talking about people who are lawyers. I'm not talking about people. That stuff. Nobody wants a dentist to start drilling their mouth who doesn't know what they're doing. That's foolish. So let's go higher. I'm talking about commissions that there are no degrees for. Now, you think about that. What commissions do you know that there's no earthly degree to give? If I was going to go to school for this, what school would I go to for this? Who would teach me this? I argue that if you can actually go to school and get everything you need to learn what God's asked you to do, you're not talking to God. God is not dealing with you. As generals for this coming era, I'm not saying that he doesn't use people who are doing things with degrees. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm saying that for this next era that's coming, he's going higher, which will use people with degrees. But he will give them even more revelation, even more wisdom. He will use that as a base. But even if somebody doesn't have that, you don't need that base for what I'm talking about. Now, this is crucial to remember when you're on the process, because it satisfies the fear of saying, I don't know what's next. I don't know when. I don't know how long. Because it reminds you that he knows everything and he has the entire plan figured out. Anything he wants you to know, he will let you know it. This is why we need to be Christians. This is why we need to first have salvation through Jesus Christ. This is why from there we need to get to know God as a Father. And this is why after getting to know God as a Father, then we need to seek friendship with him. Because this is what's needed to carry out missions like I'm talking about. We need to stop asking how long and when. It's a lower level thinking for God. Trust him. Know that he knows when. Know that he's planning for something in the future. He's not planning for your current situation. His future solution will not only fix your current situation, but fix everybody's around you and actually enhance so many people's lives around you, around the world, that you will forget about your current situation that you wanted fixed, that you were so getting frenzied about. This is our God. Keep building. Hail Jehovah.